Now, in today's session, we are seeing that most of the financial instruments are trading sideways in a very narrow range, and we are not really seeing any big momentum. And in today's session of Market Movers, the focus is going to be on the USDJPY in the currency space, and also we will take a look on the equity segment where the instrument of choice is DAX. And the story is fairly similar for both the instruments. As I said, the market is trading in the range, and this has been the case for almost more than a week now. The USDJPY is sitting in the vicinity of 109 for almost a week, and it has remained range bound in a narrow range of 50 to 60 pips. For today's session, it has hovered just below the 109 level, and I think looking at its price trajectory, the correction looks due after it has rallied quite well, almost closer to 500 pips if we count from the bottom to the top. And after this tremendous rally, we can of course expect some correction to happen, and it can be expected. And we will be looking into the technical aspects of that and what are the levels which we need to watch out for in this week. So let's get started. If we consider the data docket for the day, there were not many major releases coming in for the Asian trading session as well as for the European trading hours. And moving on to the US trading hours, just a while back we got these housing data, and prior to that we had also got the Chicago Fed National Activity Index. And these are not major releases, but given the fact that there are not much data coming in, the only takeaway from both these data sets is that we are seeing some softening in the economic activity. The Chicago Fed National Activity Index is also lower, even below the forecast, and lot lower compared to the prior release, and now it is in negative territory at 1.09. That means the economic activity has actually gone down in the month of February compared to the prior month. And moving on to the home sales, we got the existing home sales numbers for the month of February. And here also, both in terms of percentages as well as if we consider the absolute figures, the number are lower. The existing home sales stand at 6.22 million, and in percentage terms, there is a decline of 6.6% compared to the gains of around 0.2%, which were seen in the prior month of January. Now, we will start to consider the technical outlook. We will first see the currency space where the focus is on the USD JPY, and then onwards we will also consider the DAX. Let's start with the USD JPY's technical outlook. This is the daily time frame chart, and here is this USD JPY sitting atop after rallying quite well over the last couple of weeks. And this is the daily time frame chart here. And this rally started from the levels below 103 and went all the way above the 109 level. So in a way, more than 600 pips the USD JPY gained in over the course of 2.5 months. And now, as you can notice on this chart, it has traded range bound. There are not many reasons for the market participants to go short on the USD JPY, and as a result of that, it hasn't really seen much of a downward momentum. The underlying bias still remains bullish, but how far it can go in a single attempt. So it is sitting there, just consolidating in a narrow range, and I think the picture is not likely to change anytime soon. As I said, there are not many reasons for the market participants to go short on it, as we have seen the fundamentals improve, and economy is picking up well in the United States and also in other parts of the world. The countries are doing much better than earlier anticipation, and as a result of that, the yields have gone up in recent times. And if we consider the case of US Treasury yields for 10 years, it is trading closer to the levels last seen in February of 2020. That's during the pre pandemic days. And that has helped the USD gain strength against most of its major currency peers, and we will have to live with that. And I think even in short to medium term, the outlook still remains bullish. But here we are going to mainly focus on the scalping opportunities, given the fact that I'm not really expecting the USD JPY to move sharply higher from these levels either. And rather than that, we can expect some correction to happen, but the magnitude is not going to be that much. We will have to take it as we go along and see what are the important levels to consider in today's session. So if you consider the pivot point formation here, it is still more conducive on the buy side than the sell side. We have to see that it is now in between these second resistance and the third resistance of this month's pivot point series. And if we consider the regression curve, it is still inclined on the higher side. So both these factors are more helpful for the confidence building on the buy side, but we have to consider that the price action, as you can see, has remained in a narrow range and it is almost horizontal. We don't really have much of an strong momentum on the either side, and I think this might be the case for a couple of days more. And there are trades to be done, but we will have to trade using lower time frame chart, even hourly, and there is not much that can be used on these 4 hourly charts either. We have to keep in mind that now the USD JPY is sitting atop on these higher levels, and as now the price action has moved in this lower band of the regression curve, it is likely to flatten in next couple of days if we don't really see any fresh rally, any fresh impetus on the buy side in USD JPY. So keeping that in mind, we can utilize this confluence area of 50, 100 and 200 SMA, which is there around just below the levels of 109. So I think this is going to be the major resistance in near term, and unless and until we have any clear cut breakout above these price area, we can't really expect any big move on the higher side. And instead of looking for any big trade on the buy side, I think it will be more appropriate for us to go for shorting opportunities, though we will have to keep the target price fairly sharp. We can't really expect big target price, and I'm not anticipating that kind of moves on the lower side. But maybe 40 50 pips can be anticipated if we are shorting anywhere closer to 109 level. So that remains the case. And if we see that in today's session there is no big move and the USD consolidates just below this resistance area, then in tomorrow's session, by the time the European traders come back, we will have a more clearer picture, and we can go for shorting opportunities as and when the USD begins the fresh move on the lower side after holding closer to these 109 level. For the time being, it is around 108.8, and we are not really far off from our desired area for getting involved on the new trades. So I think this is the price range to watch out for, where the stop loss can be kept fairly close, and these stop loss levels are not really that far. The stop loss of around 20-25 pips can be utilized, and in lieu of that risk, we can target almost 50 pips on the lower side. So watch out for the price range of around 108.9 to 109 in tomorrow's session, and as and when it will see some selling pressure building up, some move on the lower side, we can go for shorting opportunities while keeping the stop loss closer to these prior swing highs. Now moving on to the equity space, let's consider the DAX technical outlook. Is the daily time frame chart here, and for the equities also, these months have been phenomenal, and there is no stopping even now. Even if you consider the fact that most of the equity indices are sitting closer to their record highs, DAX is no exception here. Just in last week we saw it forming the new all-time high just below the 15,000 mark. Not just below, it was like 1.5 percentage point away, but still fairly close. And if things continue to hold the way they have, even I think the 15,000 mark can be expected to be breached in next couple of weeks. For the time being, the DX is still holding well, and if you consider the price action in the day so far, it has found some buying momentum on the lower side, though the movement has been rather limited. But still, it is not really going down and holding on to its price range above the 14,600 mark. This is the price area I think which we need to watch out for. We have seen it consolidate for more than 2 weeks on this price range, and as you can see, even in today's session, it tried to gain only rather than going for a breakout on the lower side. If you consider the regression curve, it is still inclined on the higher side, but only thing is that now the price action has moved to the lower band of this regression curve. So that is something which we need to watch out for. And the second resistance has indeed kept the DX gains on the higher side. So we haven't really seen any big momentum after it has gotten closer to these second resistance, and the gains have been rather limited. But if the DAX holds above this support area of prior swing highs, and I think in tomorrow's session it will be crucial to see how it reacts. If it continues to find support on the lower side, closer to the 14,600 mark, then I think it is more likely to move back towards its prior swing high, the all-time high established around 14,800 mark, and any breakout if we see on the higher side tomorrow's session. I'm not talking about today's session. So if in tomorrow's session we see that the DX is able to hold to these gains of today's session, and then a fresh breakout on the higher side in tomorrow's session, and we are pretty much likely to see the DAX moving back closer to these all-time highs. So that possibility is going to be there, and the stop loss is not really going to be much wide either. I think the day's low should be good enough to act as our near-term stop loss. It is going to be a bit wider, more than half percentage point, but still that should be good enough for the probability of making money in case we happen to be on the right side of the trade. And of course we are trading with the trend, so the probability is likely to remain much more in for our favor than not. So that's it from my side for today's session. If you have any idea or any query to share, you can write to me in the feedback section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. Before I sign off, I would also like to remind of the risk associated with trading in the financial instrument, and one should be careful while using the information provided. Have a fabulous day ahead. See you next time. Till then, goodbye.